Welcome to Off the Wall. My name is Trey. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Appreciate you for checking it out. We had a busy weekend of indoor and arena football this past weekend, including some nail-biting finishes, some unbelievable comebacks that we'll dive into in a little bit. But we have a very special interview with Nick Brassell. He's a defensive back for the Oregon Lightning. He came down with the game-winning Hail Mary catch. He flipped over to offense for that last play of the game and went up and got it. So had a chance to talk to him about his football journey, about that game, about that situation, and how all that came to be. So excited to dive into that with him. We'll talk about IFL week 2. We'll talk about AF1 week 3. Then we'll talk about NAL week 4 as well. But before we dive into any of that stuff, please make sure you're following us on socials at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball. Off the Wall FB. We're on X/Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on just about everything. So go give us a follow on there. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for doing that, by the way. Please make sure you're liking the video and subscribing to the channel as well. And then if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you're doing the same over there. Subscribe to the channel, rate 5 stars, do all that fun stuff. Share it with a friend. Share it with somebody that you think might like arena football but hasn't been given the chance to look at it. Like bully your friends into watching arena football and tell them about the show. But yeah, super excited to see the show and the platform continue to grow. So much appreciated for all the support leading up to this point. So let's not waste any more time. Here's the interview with Nick. All right, on the show this week, we have a defensive back for the Oregon Lightning who made some headlines this past weekend with a last-second Hail Mary catch against the Southwest Kansas Storm. His name is Nick Brassell. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the show. How are things in your world, and how are things going with the Lightning?
Man, everything's going good, man. Day-to-day process, grinding. Got a lot of young guys. We're just trying to get hip to the arena game, not the outdoor, but feel like we're getting progress and everything's starting to fold right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the season's been a fun one so far. I know you guys have been involved in some back and forth games. The comeback in this last one had to feel good after being on the opposite end of it a week or two before.
Yeah, it was definitely something we needed for sure. But we knew going into that game, there was a team that we could beat. It was just all about eliminating the turnovers and, executing on when we got the ball.
Right.
We feel like we get enough stops in the game to come out with a victory, but we just eliminate the small things. We'll get it together.
Yeah, of course. So before we dive too far into arena and your career in there, I want to learn a bit about your football journey as a whole that led you to arena football. So tell us a little bit about that and how you got involved with the game.
I got a long story though. I graduated high school 2011. I was a 4 or 5-star receiver coming up. I was really a receiver, but I always played both ways in high school and stuff. But my coaches used to fight over me about what side of the ball I was going to play every game. So they just never took the field. And my two choices between college was between Ole Miss, because of their home, basically, and Alabama. Alabama was the top school back then. So,
right.
And my high school was the top school in Mississippi. And we had just won a national championship my senior year.
Dang, okay.
Yeah, so decided to stay home and played there, and had to end up leaving there after a year and going to JUCO. I had to go to junior for a year, East Mississippi Community College, the team that had the Last Chance U show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went down there for a year and came back to Ole Miss and ended up getting released again, going into my junior year. New coaches and staff, and you know what I'm saying. From there, I ended up going straight to the CFL.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so that's how been kind of bouncing around, never really had an agent in the game. So, I just kind of just let my talent speak for itself and, coach to coach, mouth to mouth and, workouts, stuff like that. But just tried to keep myself in the game, So played 2 years in the CFL with Toronto, Argonauts, and Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Oh, okay.
And I got in arena probably, I think, 2016, 15, 16. I started in the IFL, 4 or 5 years in the IFL, and then I came to Albany, played for the Albany Empire in 2023, I think. Yeah, 2023.
Yeah.
And last year when they came out with the team in Oregon, it was it just sounded so exciting, something new. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Go out there and see something different in the world. You know, and decided to come back this year, and you know, it's kind of sticking to me. It's kind of home to me now. So
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, so it's been a long little journey, man. But I've been, trying to be there for whatever situation I'm in, and try to be the best I can be. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's all you can do. Just focus on what you can control, and you can control your effort, you can control everything you do on the field. Can't really control
Yes,
much
sir.
else beyond that. So you've been in the arena game for a little while, like you mentioned, making way to it in 2015, 2016. What was your first introduction to arena football? Did you know about it growing up, or did it kind of come on your radar as an option post college?
The only thing I knew about arena was we knew Kurt Warner came from arena football
Yeah.
back in the day. That was the only
Yeah.
thing I knew. And when I kind of left Canada, I kind of left for a personal reason,
Right.
and it kind of hurt me for a bit. But I had one of my old coaches from college, and he just reached out to me. He was like, "I got an opportunity for you to get in arena ball, man. It can get you back to where you're trying to be and where you need to be."
Yeah.
And got in it, and it was just something different, but it kind of fit me. It just, what I'm saying, like 7 on 7 to me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's very much like that 7-on-7, and then you having that two-way experience adds a nice little dynamic to it
Yeah.
as well. Did you ever play two ways
I,
throughout your arena indoor career?
I've always played it both ways, but
Yeah,
like I said, it just depending on what the team is in need of, more of a DB or more of a receiver, and and I just try to focus on that. But I'm always ready
yeah,
to on either side of the ball.
right. Yeah, and this past weekend was a prime example of that, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But I want to touch on what you mentioned about Ole Miss. Obviously, things didn't work out the way you would have wanted, and you found a way to, despite that, continue your career post college. Like, what did you learn through that whole process, and like what was it like kind of like I'm sure it didn't feel great after that happened, kind of reigniting that fire for the game that you grew up playing and that you love so much.
Yeah, I just really had to. I really had to settle myself down. When we're young, we make a lot of decisions on our own, and and the company we keep, and the things that I should have listened to that I did listen to, that I just had to bump my heads a couple times and then realize on my own, okay, if I don't get right, I was gonna lose playing the game, and I loved it so
Yeah.
much, so it was something I cherished. So I just had to really just grow up, and then I had kids at a young age, so that was kind
Yeah.
of a thing that helped turn my life around too. So
That's good.
I'm watching,
Be able to.
I'm watching my boys now. My oldest is about to be 15 this year, and they out there
Oh
playing.
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You ever line up, go one on one with the boys, be like,
Oh
all
yeah,
right,
all the
pops is about to
time.
show you how it's
I
done.
tell them all the time. Anytime they feel like they're ready for it, I'm with
Uh-huh.
it, and I don't take it light.
No, no, absolutely. Do not let your foot off the gas. They'll have to catch up to you.
Yes, sir.
So you've been with a variety of teams over the past 10 years in arena ball. Um, I was doing some research on the different teams, and then the Nebraska Danger. Tell
Yeah,
me about that experience and making that adjustment to the indoor game at first, because a lot of things are similar, but then again, you kind of cut that field in half, cut it in half again, and things get very
yeah.
different very quickly.
I'm not gonna lie. The Nebraska Danger really probably one of the best experiences I had in here because of like when I first got in, I came on a team full of vet guys, older
Yeah,
guys, and Coach Mike Davis was our coach, and Hurdy Shin was our offensive coordinator. So we had a great coaching staff at the same time, and
yeah,
just being around a lot of vet guys, and we had a quarterback, Jamil Sewell, which he was like the reigning MVP for like back-to-back years or something. So it was like I had a lot of great guys to be around that teach me the game and teach me how to be a pro, and and how to stick around the game for a long time. So
right.
and just watching those guys, and it just kept me motivated. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, it
but
seems like Nebraska's like a hotbed for indoor football. Like what was the culture of Nebraska out like off the field like?
it was kind of new, different because Nebraska ain't like the New Yorks or the Californias or the
Yeah,
Atlanta.
not at all.
So, but I just always looked at it then. It was like, okay, maybe I'm out here, and in the middle of nowhere to focus and get myself together and slow
Yeah.
myself down. So I had a chance to just focus on football and just get my life back on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's great.
yeah.
So from there, you spent a couple years in Nebraska. Then you went over to it was Cedar Rapids with the Cedar Rapids River Kings, and then eventually with the Bay Area Panthers. Not too long after that. So you were jet setting across the country for
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
while.
yeah.
As you kind of gain that experience and like you were the rookie in the room with the veterans, like you said, learning from them, you quickly
Mhm.
became that veteran voice for
Yeah,
some of these younger guys. What
yeah.
was that adjustment like? And helping guide some of those younger players both on and off the field.
The biggest adjustment was me just becoming more vocal. I always been the leader type. I just always just led just by action, showing up to work, handling my business, doing the right things,
Right.
carrying myself the right way. But it's like now that you're like the older vet and everybody come to you for answers, now you got to speak. Now you got to. So that was the big adjustment for me, just opening up more and just speaking the loud voice, and. But it feels good because a lot of guys like they didn't know me for real. They just only knew my arena. But I had to tell
Yeah.
them like, oh yeah, I played here and I played against the Tyrann Matthews. I played against Teddy Bridgewaters and they like
Yeah.
I played against Trent Richardson. They like, man, that's crazy. You made
Uh-huh.
it harder. You know what I'm saying? So when they go back and look at my story and my old games and all that now, so now they okay. Now we got somebody that we can actually like listen to and that know the game and that's been around and you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So it feels good, man, to still be here and at this age. And I'm only 32. I just turned 32, but to be out
Yeah.
there and still be one of the fastest guys in the game, and still move like I'm 22, 20, so
Right. Yeah.
yeah, so it still feels good, man.
Yeah, we might be in a Bronny Jr. situation soon if one of the young kids gets up there. You
Yeah,
you
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 know,
you and Junior out there.
that's my mom keep telling me because I be so focused on trying to be there for the boys and try to make sure they good. And she like, man, look, you never know when you're done, but just play as long as you want to play, baby. And so I
Yeah.
just try, so as long as you can. So I try to,
Yeah.
stick that in my head. But when it's over, it's over.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you mentioning some of those names made me think of something. Were you ever in one of the old NCAA games?
Yeah. The last two they had, I think it was the 2013 and 14. I was in the last two.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That
you-
was the crazy thing for me. When I saw myself on video game, I was like, yeah, it's finally real now.
yeah.
Yeah, it's finally real.
Yeah, that's got to be crazy for some of the younger guys on the team too, who might have been playing that when they were what,
They
9, 10
was,
years
they,
old.
they,
And
they was they was in middle school.
yeah,
A lot,
they were
yeah.
they were learning football and hot routing
Mm-hmm.
and calling audibles on Xbox, and you
Mm-hmm.
were the guy out there.
Yeah.
That's nuts to think about.
Yeah.
So 2023 you mentioned with the Albany Empire. That seems like it was a very, very interesting situation to be a part of. Um, like from your experience, what was that whole thing like? And like, was there a certain point where things kind of got a little chaotic behind the scenes, or was it like from the get-go, it wasn't a great
Nah,
situation?
I looked at it because we all looked at Albany was the pinnacle of arena football,
Right. Yeah.
and them winning I think maybe two or three back to backs. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, and then I knew a couple players that was there that I played with in the past, like Markel Wade. Like we came in arena football together with Nebraska Danger,
Yeah.
and we played against each other in college. He was at Arkansas and I was at Ole Miss, so we always been close since coming out of high school. And he was out there in Albany, and he just for like 2, 3 years straight. And he was like, "Man, come on out here with me, man. Help come out here and win these championships with us." And so
Yeah.
that was my thing. I just leave because I didn't want to leave Bay Area because Bay Area was the new of a start of a new team, and what I'm saying,
Yeah.
things didn't go right the first year, but it was still a good place to be. So but I took the chance to go out there to Albany because the coaching staff, what I'm saying, and the team, the players that they had, and I just felt it was a good situation, especially at that point in my career. Like I'm more focused on winning now than just team to team. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So finding a good place to be where I can probably feel like it's home. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
and then everything was good, and it's just the Antonio Brown situation. That was
Yeah.
that was the whole fallout with that, and when he got rid of the coaches that was there and the players that were there, and it just wasn't the same no more.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just so confusing to see how it went down. Because, like you said, Albany is the home of arena football over the past like 5 6 years. Like, just
yeah,
they've been so consistent with that ownership group and coaching staff. So to see it all fall apart so quickly, I was like, dang man, what
yeah.
what the
It,
heck?
it was heartbreaking, man. Because when I got there and I haven't been a part of a team where I just felt like you saw what they done built year after year after year after year, and
Right.
it was exciting. And like I said, I come from a winning culture in high school, and you know what I'm saying, so like this. So it just felt so good to be back a part of something that was dominant, and you know what I'm saying. And you had to come in every
Yeah.
day to show up and put the work in, and you know, so it was very professional.
In 2024, you mentioned it. You go over to Oregon with Coach Chuck Jones and the Oregon Black Bears. What is it about Coach Jones that made you want to sign with Oregon?
When I met him last year, like we didn't know each other before I came out here last year. We talked a couple
Hmm.
times on do recruiting or whatnot, and it's like when I first met him, just the conversations and the talks that we had, it was like we just clicked automatically. You know, so he understood me, I understood him because he from California and I'm from down south, so we kind of have like similar mentalities. But
Yeah.
I just looked at him more as like a big brother, other than just a coach. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
just the bond we had, and then how we grinded last year as a team, and it wasn't the best situation for us, but how we started out 3-0, 4-0, even 4-0, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was something special for real. And we just felt that we had the opportunity to finish last year. We would have been up there at the top, you know what I'm saying? So
Right.
and so when it all went down last year, I ended up going to Billings. I finished the season with Billings and then won a championship there with them.
Right.
But when he called me and was like, "Yeah, we got the team back out here this year, and everything's going to be 100 times better," that's all I need to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I need to hear.
Yeah. I had him on the show a couple months back when Oregon Lightning were announced, and he's just a fierce guy. Like
Yeah,
he just
yeah,
gets fired up very quickly, and I'm like, man, I'm thousands of miles away from Oregon, and you got
yeah.
me fired up
And
to hop in the car and start driving.
you gotta love his energy, man. You gotta love
Yeah.
it.
What's it like playing for him? Like, have you ever been on the not so fun side of a Coach Jones a barking?
Oh yeah, I mean, but I'd rather have that than to have a cool laid back coach. Like get him right, coach. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
Straight,
Yeah, yeah,
and all he expected us to show up as pros and do our job.
yeah,
When you winning, everything is all good. When you bad, is when it's so.
yeah. Yeah, you need somebody to, like you said, get you right. And to your point about the last year's Oregon team, you look back on that initial roster, there was a lot of dudes on that
Yeah,
roster. It
we
was
had,
like,
we had
man,
we
that
had
was
some
a
guys.
that was a talented squad. Like just naming a few off the top, like Isaiah Scott, Jonathan
Yeah,
McAllister.
yeah.
Like there were just so many names. It was like, man,
And we all just decided to go to Oregon just off the experience, trying something different,
right?
getting away from all the other teams, and it was a new team, and we just come out here and create a new culture. And that
Yeah,
was all our first time ever meeting each other.
right.
Yeah, so it was great how we all came together and bonded, and then realizing what we had, like, and then guys moved on to other places and still produced, and what I'm saying, making a name for themselves, like Zay,
Yeah,
what I'm saying, Bird, like them guys doing their thing.
right. Yeah, and it's got to be interesting to like Oregon is an underrepresented like sports community as a whole. Like
Yeah,
besides like Oregon State, you maybe got what the Portland Trailblazers and a
yeah,
couple soccer teams out there.
yeah.
There's not really much out there. So it's got to be interesting to kind of like start something from scratch, especially this year with the Oregon Lightning in a community that really doesn't have a ton of sports teams. So what's that been like kind of introducing yourselves to the community, but also introducing the niche sport of arena football to those people?
One thing I can say is they have a lot of support with the
Yeah,
team, and what I'm saying, especially with it some new with being out here, professional football wise. But we just stay out in the community, man. Coach have a lot doing a lot of meet and greets and stuff like that, and we get out
right.
as on our own sometime, and we just go out and mingle and talk about the game everywhere we go. We try to have on the gear so they ask questions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So it's starting to spread mouth to mouth, and we're trying to get city to city. So when we get to them home games, man, we can go and pack them out because we gonna
yes,
need
sir.
that next season.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
the support been crazy though. We love it. We love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when you have chaotic endings like this past weekend, how can you not love it? So let's talk about how that went down. So in case if you're listening to this and you didn't watch it, pause this video, pause this podcast, go watch what we're describing right now. Massive comeback by the Lightning against the Southwest Kansas Storm. You were on the receiving end of that Hail Mary to end it with no time left. Talk me through that whole last minute and how that last play kind of unfolded.
um, it was just something so unreal, man. Because the week before we played Washington, you know, we had the ball. You got the ball at the end of the game, and coach called me out there the last play of the game to go run the Hail Mary. And I was so close to catching it, and like one DB come across and deflect the ball out the air. But I was so close to catching it, so I just beat myself up all week. I'm like,
Yeah,
man, I should have caught that ball. I should have made that play for y'all. Should have, you know what I'm saying? The game could have been
right.
different. But we ended up getting that fourth down stop. They gave us the ball back in 4 seconds, and like, I was helping one of my teammates off the field because he had hurt his leg. And like, yeah, coach wants you on the field again. So in my mind, I was just like, yeah, I'm getting this one.
Yeah,
I'm getting this one for sure.
yeah. Yeah, just the way it went down and the way the final minute happened, and I was shocked that you guys got the ball back. Like just the way it happened, and when I saw there was 4 seconds, I'm like, that it could happen. I was like, that would be awesome if it happened. And sure enough, it happened. And I'm in my living room watching the game. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
That
it was exciting, man. I'm not gonna lie to you because when I just saw it unfold and then I look up and then I just saw the ball there, I was like, yeah, I'm coming down with this one. And
yeah,
I didn't even pay attention to the wall. Like the wall was a
right.
shock to me. I didn't think I was that close to it.
Yeah, it seemed like it was like you were it looked like you were like maybe inches away from the wall while catching the ball, and it was like, oh no, this that could have been very that could have ended very badly in
Yeah,
the middle of a four-man pile like that. But
yeah.
yeah, you emerged with it. You're doing your thing. I was like, man, I cannot believe what we're watching right now. It's just an unbelievable ending.
I was very confident in it though. When coach said he needed me out there though,
Yeah,
I just ran out there and lined up and I ain't say a word and just had to go do the job, man. Like I said,
yeah,
I'm always keep myself prepared and ready for whatever coach need me to do. He might
right.
want me to play quarterback this week, man. Look, I do it. I do
Run a
it.
little wildcat. Let's get crazy.
And I'll do it, man. I'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, when you have that two-way experience, it certainly comes in handy for situations like that. And yeah, I can only imagine that the post-game celebration was a crazy one, and getting back to Oregon had to be a blast. But the Lightning are certainly going to be a fun team to watch the rest of the season. I'm excited to see how you guys continue to grow from here, and maybe we'll see you out at wide receiver a couple times, maybe in some non-Hail Mary situations. I don't know. Do we need to talk to
um,
Coach Jones about that or what?
yeah, we have to talk to coach about that, man. We get the right guy on the back end, man, and we get this
Yeah.
chemistry going. You know, so we can keep this. We can start getting these interceptions in, man, and get the top of that. See,
Hell yeah, let's
our
go.
offensive guys is eating right now, so we got to get in that stats column with them.
Right. Yeah. They're lighting it up. It's only a matter of time for you guys
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Well, this has been great, Nick. I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on and sharing your story and sharing your journey. Where can people follow you on socials?
Um, Nick Brassell 11 Instagram. Nicholas Brassell book. Same thing, Nicholas Brassell on all of that. So it's just very
Cool.
simple. Just type in my name, it should pop up.
All right, cool. Yeah, we'll link some of those in the
Yeah.
description on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. So go give them a follow, let them know you heard them on Off the Wall. And yeah, like I said, I'm really looking forward to the rest of the season. Oregon Lightning is a very exciting team, starting to put some things together and starting to turn the corner. So best of luck this weekend, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again to Nick for joining the show and talking about his football journey, talking about his path through arena football. It's crazy to think he's been playing arena and indoor football for 10 years now, going everywhere from Nebraska to Cedar Rapids to Bay Area to Albany to Oregon to Billings, back to Oregon. He's had quite a journey. So I appreciate him taking the time and hopping on short notice. He made that game-winning catch on Sunday, and he was able to hop on a couple days later and talk about it. So big shout out to Nick. So we're gonna dive into IFL action from this past weekend. Week 2 kicked off, and we've seen every team in action so far in the IFL through the first 2 weeks. The first game we're going to talk about is the Iowa Barnstormers at the Green Bay Blizzard. Green Bay won this game 52-47. And Green Bay was really controlling this game for the majority of the first 3 quarters. They jumped out to a very big lead. Max Mailer had another game where he had at least one rushing and at least one passing touchdown. So he's providing the balance and efficiency that you need at the quarterback position. And it's looking like he's going to have another MVP worthy season. Just depends on how the rest of the offense develops, but they're able to get some production out of some rookies on both sides of the ball. Rookie Kimo Clark had a huge game and really stepped up for the Blizzard offense. He had a big breakout performance. I think he scored 4 touchdowns on the day. IFL website's not fully up to date with stats, so I think it was 4. It might have been 5. Sorry if I'm shortchanging you, Chemo. But the offense was flowing through Chemo Clark early on and really getting him involved, and he was the hot hand. So last week I talked about I liked what Joshua Mack was able to do at the running back position. Seems like Chemo Clark is able to step in and do some really cool things as well for that offense and give Max Mailer a chance to hand the ball off and not take so many hits. Maybe prolong his longevity for the entire season in the process. But then rookie defensive lineman Allen Henry, he had 2 sacks on the night, including one for a safety. So you got rookie production out of both sides of the ball in the very first game of the season. That bodes well for the Green Bay Blizzard as they continue to, the IFL, you have to be able to develop rookies because of how the vet rules are set up and everything. And if they're getting this type of production in game 1, coaching staff is doing a really great job to prepare these guys, and they're only going to get better from here. And the Green Bay defense was really able to limit the Iowa offense early on. They were able to contain Quinn Williams. I say contain because he was still able to go out and score the first 3 touchdowns for Iowa. It just seemed like Green Bay had no answer for him in particular, but was able to contain the rest of the offense for a little while. But Iowa was able to fight back. At one point, Iowa was down by 19 with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But they kept fighting. They didn't stop. They went down, scored, recovered an onside kick, scored again, and nearly recovered another onside kick. So this could have been a historic comeback that we saw, down 19 points with 3 minutes left, and they nearly came back and pulled it off. But Quan Williams, again, he's another one where he was all IFL last year for a reason, and he had an explosive first game, and that's what you need when you have a rookie quarterback like Iowa does. But the rookie quarterback, Joaquin Collazo, he looked really good in his debut. I was worried about the quarterback position because the Coach Moog came out and said that they're going to get like a more traditional drop back pocket passer, and that's not typically what works in the IFL and not typically what has worked in Iowa offenses in the past. So it was a little concerning to see that. But Joaquin went out there. He was slinging it. He was really connecting with his receivers. And it's going to be a tough road ahead for Iowa. But I liked what I saw. And the development of Joaquin Collazo is going to be very important. You already saw some things that he was correcting and doing better from the first quarter to the fourth quarter. And if he's able to make some of those same adjustments and continue to improve from game 1 to game 2, Iowa could play spoiler for a bunch of teams in the East. So I'm cautiously optimistic about what I'm seeing out of Iowa. Next game we're going to talk about is the Quad City Steamwheelers at the Massachusetts Pirates. Quad City won this game 37-33. So in 2024, we talked about it at length in different interviews and all throughout last season. Quad City was great at home. They were 6-2 at home, but 2-6 on the road. They had a strong home debut against Green Bay last week. Would they be able to carry that momentum over to this week and have a strong performance on the road? They won, yes, but it wasn't really a strong performance. The defense played really, really well. Defense played awesome in this game. They started off with a Bubba Arslanian pick 6. Shout out to Bubba. Then they were able to, just make life hard for the Pirates offensive line, and they were able to apply a lot of pressure to Kenji Bahar, quarterback for the Pirates. But when you kind of look at how many points they scored 37. You take away that pick six, you take away a kick return touchdown they also had, that's only 25 points produced by the offense. And normally that's not enough to win a game in the IFL. Luckily, their defense played exceptional in this one and was really able to limit what the Pirates were able to do. But if they didn't have that kick return, they didn't have that pick six that fell into their lap, despite how well the defense played, they might have been able to pull this one off. So the road woes seem to continue for Quad City. I'm not sure what the solve is. I don't know if there is an easy solve for it, but they're 2-0. Good start. You couldn't ask for a better start than 2-0. So Quad City, the fact that they still have some things to work out and still have some things to clean up on offense, and they're 2-0. Defense has been looking really good. I think that's reason for optimism in the Quad Cities area for Steamwheelers fans. But for Massachusetts, we talked about week one quarterback woes. Like Kenji Bahar just wasn't able to do what they needed him to do to get the ball to his wideouts. He was a little bit better in this one, but it was still a little concerning to see the lack of efficiency, not really able to dish the ball out to uh, Isaac Zico, Thomas Owens, Tio Redding. He was finally able to find Tio Redding in the end zone for a passing touchdown right before the end of the first half, but they for Massachusetts in particular, they need a quarterback that is going to be the straw that stirs the drink. So every other position on offense is the different ingredients of the drink, the ice, the tequila, the marg mix, whatever you want to go with. But the quarterback has to be the straw that stirs it all together and makes it work. Right now, the straw is just going in the drink and coming right out. There is no mixing going on. So they really need the quarterback position to be able to facilitate and get some things going for that Pirates offense that has way too much talent to be putting out the numbers that they have over the first couple of weeks. But the Pirates defense, again, played really, really well in this one. Under normal circumstances, they would have played well enough to earn a win with a more competent offense at this point. But right now they're 0-2 and they get a bye week coming up, and they just hired a new offensive coordinator heading into their bye week this week in Martino Theus. So maybe that's the spark that they need to be able to get things going, but they got to get things turned around very quickly because starting off 0-2 is tough enough. Starting off 0-3 in this fairly competitive and what we think is going to be a stacked Eastern Conference, not putting yourself in the best position to be successful. Next up, we're going to talk about the Fishers Freight at Northern Arizona Wranglers. Fishers won their first ever game in the IFL 41-29. And this was one of the uglier games of the week, if we're just being honest. We're talking multiple pick sixes, ball slipping out of quarterback's hands as they're trying to throw it, spamming a quarterback draw play, it seemed like at times. It wasn't as fun and high flying as some of the other games that we'll talk about in a bit, but Northern Arizona actually started off pretty strong in this one. Fishers took a while to get going on offense, but Northern Arizona jumped out to a 14-0 lead, and it looked like they were gonna make some noise and be able to hand Fishers a loss in their first game ever in the IFL. But rookie CJ Fowler at quarterback for Northern Arizona, he was dynamic on the ground, but couldn't really get much going through the air. I had a couple pick sixes, like I mentioned, and they eventually turned to Christian Arambadi. I hope I said that right, for a spark in the second half, and it just ultimately ended up being a little like too little, too late. So Northern Arizona, they have some really good pieces on offense in terms of David Elder from last year and new running back Marvin Kinsey Jr. But they need that consistency and production out of the quarterback position in order for them to be successful. So I felt we talked about in the preview show that might be an area of concern, especially given how much talent left for Bay Area and other teams in the league. It's going to take some time for them to fill those voids that were left from last year's team. But for Fishers, this was a solid team debut. It wasn't the most pretty offensively, but defense travels. At any level of football, defense travels. And going from Fishers to Northern Arizona, they needed that veteran defense to step up and really guide the team to a win in their first ever game, and that's what they did. Multiple pick sixes, including one from the big defensive lineman Isaiah Reed. Big shout out to Isaiah, and that was really the turning point for them, starting to pull away in the second half and mix in another turnover on a kickoff, a safety later in the game, and the defense was flying around and making things happen. And quarterback Jaya Reed, they were running him a lot all throughout the game. So it seems like they're going to put some miles on old Jaya Reed there. But it kind of raises the question, did they win this game because of the talent on their roster, or did they win this game because of some of the dysfunction, for lack of a better term, over on the Northern Arizona side? We don't know what the answer to that is. But next week, we have an opportunity to find out because Fishers has their first ever home game against the Tulsa Oilers, who had a pretty good start to the season, knocking off San Antonio. So that's going to be a fun one. But Fishers, congratulations on your first ever win in the IFL. Next thing we're going to talk about is the Tucson Sugar Skulls at the Arizona Rattlers. And Arizona won this game 56-28. So they doubled them up in the season debut for both teams. And less than a week before the Arizona Rattler season started, they announced that they were re-signing Dalton Snead, who was their quarterback last year, who led them to the IFL National Championship and led Bay Area to the IFL National Championship the year before. So very talented quarterback that they were adding to a quarterback room that already featured Drew Powell and Trip Harrington. Drew Powell coming back to Arizona after a year in Orlando, and then Trip Harrington coming over from Frisco, who spent some time at quarterback and wide receiver over in Frisco. So it was curious how they were going to approach it. Were they going to go with Drew Powell, who's been in camp the entire time, or were they going to go with Dalton Snead, who led them to a championship last year? And they ended up going with Dalton Snead. And he was incredible. He was very, very good in this game, and they picked up right where they left off. It was kind of unclear if Snead was going to fully retire or what the holdup was or what the deal is, but he was the starting quarterback, and like I said, he looked really good in this game. It looked like he didn't miss a beat. Picked up right where he left off. They were able to be productive through the air and on the ground. Uh, he was looking in midseason form, able to connect with Trip Harrington, Ron Brown Jr., and Isaiah Houston for touchdowns through the air. And usually you see some signs of a championship hangover in some teams in these situations, but there was nothing there. The defense played well. The offense played well. Everything was clicking. They scored 50 plus in their first game of the season. You really couldn't ask for more out of this Arizona team in their home debut after winning the national championship. So Arizona picked right back up where they left off in 2024. But unfortunately, so did Tucson. Tucson struggled mightily in 2024, and they seem to struggle in this one as well. There was reason for some optimism, a lot of new blood in the mix for the Tucson Sugar Skulls team this year. They're bringing in Charles McCollum, IFL veteran. They were, hoping to revamp some things and have some new blood in the mix. But Charles McCollum went on season-ending IR. Not sure what the extent of it was, about a week before the game kicked off. So Jordan Ambrose got thrown in at quarterback, and he was able to punch it in to the end zone a couple of times in the red zone. But getting to the point where you could punch it in from the red zone was a challenge for this offense. And it's never a good omen when your opening drive of the season results in a pick six for the other team running the other direction and putting points on the board before their offense even touches the field. So Tucson, it needs production passing wise out of the quarterback position. Ambrose showed that he's a really good runner. He has the goods when it comes to punching it in within 5 yards of the end zone, but you need to be able to throw the ball to get to that point. And it just seems like we're going to see more of the same out of Tucson that we did last year, this year, if that doesn't change. But you look across the opposing bench, who was signed on and is at quarterback and is not playing? Drew Powell. Do we see a situation where Drew Powell potentially goes to Tucson to see the field and bring that veteran presence? Before the 2024 season, Drew Powell was traded from Arizona to Tucson. Do we potentially see something similar happen there? It would make sense for all parties involved to get Drew Powell on the field. He's not getting any younger. Tucson needs a veteran quarterback presence. it could make sense. So I think we I, I think we all love to see Drew Powell in the mix and playing, and he can bring a spark to the Tucson offense that desperately needs it. But if we're looking for a bright spot on Tucson's offense or special teams or anything on Tucson, it was kicker Kevin Macias who was able to connect on several mid to long range field goals in the game and give Tucson at least a breath of hope in the first half as Arizona was just doing whatever they wanted. So shout out to Kevin Macias. Tucson gets a bye week early to regroup and hopefully reconfigure some things. But yeah, it's going to be a rough go for the Tucson Sugar Skulls this year. Next game we're going to talk about is the San Antonio Gunslingers at the Bay Area Panthers. And San Antonio went on the road and won this one 28-21. So starting with Bay Area, they had a really strong 2024. They were finished number one in the Western Conference. They played great defense, and they had an offense that was able to control the ball, really run it effectively, and wear you down. So they were able to keep a lot of the pieces on defense that made them successful, specifically in the secondary and some pieces on the defensive line. So that wasn't going to be an issue. However, I think they were hoping to get a little bit more out of their offense because what they ended up doing was they ended up signing Josh Jones from Northern Arizona, bringing in the OC from Northern Arizona, bringing the head coach from Northern Arizona, Isaiah McCorker, wide receiver from Arizona. A bunch of pieces went from Northern Arizona on offense to Bay Area with the hopes that you combine that great Bay Area defense from last year with this great Northern Arizona offense from last year. Usually, though, a great defense and a great offense is a good combination in football. But the only problem was that great offense didn't show up in this game. Will they show up in the future? Absolutely. But it seemed like the Bay Area offense got some big plays early to get on the board, but they weren't able to really consistently piece things together in a way that you would expect out of a quarterback, wide receiver, OC group that has experience together and is coming over together as a unit. But all that being said, the San Antonio defense has played exceptionally well over the first couple of weeks. So it could be something where Bay Area is good, but San Antonio is just white hot on defense right now. So the Bay Area defense was also playing pretty well. Defensive back Tyler Watson was flying all over the field, breaking up passes and really having himself a day. But there really wasn't much to hang the hat on offense for Bay Area consistently throughout the game. They had a chance to come back and potentially tie it. They were down 14 late, scored a touchdown, recovered an onside kick, but then just ran out of time on offense to do anything. So yeah, Bay Area has their work cut out for them on offense to get things figured out, but the defense again doesn't look like it's going to be an issue and should be good. But for San Antonio, as mentioned, the defense played really well, and they played really well in week one. But then you add an reigning IFL Defensive Player of the Year, Ravarius Rivers, to that defense that played really well in week one, and they're going to play even better. And that's exactly what they did. He made his impact felt all throughout the game, making big hits, causing pass breakups, and then coming down with an interception as well. So first game with San Antonio, he's already got an interception. Defense was just flying around, making big hits on the Bay Area offense, and they looked really good again for a second consecutive game. So it's mind blowing to me that last year San Antonio was offense crazy, defense who? What are you talking about? And now the San Antonio defense is playing out of their mind while the offense tries to figure things out. So I just can't get over the total 180 that this team has gone under over this offseason. Like it's crazy to think about. But what's even crazier to think about is that Coach Tom Manas for San Antonio, he was relieved of his duties a day after this win. So assuming they fly back from Bay Area to San Antonio, the very next day he was let go as head coach and general manager. So it seems like some things went down behind the scenes that we don't know about yet. Maybe one day we will, but offensive coordinator James Fuller is stepping in as the head coach moving forward. So it's a very weird swing of emotions where they go to Bay Area and get this big win on the road against a team that has been very good over the past couple of years. Then they let go of the head coach and GM. Very odd, very weird situation that we'll have to monitor. I haven't watched the coaches show for San Antonio yet, so maybe they share a little bit on there. Maybe we can gain some insight. But yeah, truly weird situation. Big win for San Antonio, but where do they go from here? Then the last game of the week for the IFL, we've got the Vegas Nighthawks at the San Diego Strike Force, and Vegas won this game 48 to 41. And this was a gem. This was a gem of a game to cap off a long weekend of football. This was on Monday night, kicking off at 10 p.m. Eastern. So it was a late night Monday night football game in the IFL. And Vegas started off really slow in this one, but San Diego was cooking. Like it seemed like they didn't miss a beat. I think they scored on each of their first five possessions in the first half. Vegas was looked a little rusty. They looked a little disjointed at times in the first half, while San Diego looked very efficient, very organized, and well, for the first three quarters of the game. But then they also showed some improvement already from last year. So something that I wish we saw from San Diego last year, well, two things. One was a consistent running game, and two was more consistent kicking. That was a Achilles heel for them last year. Figuring out the kicker position cost them some games. It caused more headache in some games than they deserved or what should have been just due to inconsistency at the kicking position. But I really liked what we saw out of running back Larry McCammon, who's a rookie out of Florida Atlantic for San Diego. They were very intentional with running the ball in this one, and they even like debuted what I believe were new formations that I don't think they ran last year that were more intentional with running behind, more blocking for these running backs, and doing more of the wide receiver jet motion to potentially hand off to the wide receiver, but then give it to the running back. A lot more of that we didn't see last year. Last year it was a lot of snap it to Nate Davis, throw it quick, snap it, throw it quick, snap it, throw it quick, 60 times a game. But now it looks like they're being a lot more intentional with running the football, but doing it well at the same time. So I'm excited to see that they're more well-rounded. But despite losing this one, I think that's it's a very optimistic outlook for them for this season. And shout out to friend of the program, Ernesto Lacayo, making his re-debut for the San Diego Strike Force in this one. He played for the Strike Force a few years back in their debut season, but he was able to make a couple of mid-range field goals in this one and made life difficult on some Vegas returners by being pretty damn precise with his squibbing and putting it exactly where he wanted it at times. I thought we'd see more deuce attempts out of Lacayo, but I think we'll see that a little bit more down the line. So maybe just kind of working some things out on the kickoff. But despite the loss, I think San Diego looked really good in this one. The first three quarters they looked really great. Kind of fell apart in the fourth quarter, but I think you can be very optimistic about San Diego moving forward despite the loss. For Vegas, like I said, they started off really slow and took a little bit longer to get into rhythm, but once they did, they were fun. They were a very fun team to watch. Jerome Johnson showed why he's the league MVP. In the second half, he started to really connect with his wide receivers, and he was able to display some of that athleticism. There was one run where I think it was like a design quarterback run. He got the ball, ran right, didn't see anything, ran left, didn't see anything, found a lane and cut through the middle while evading, four or five different defenders. So like four or five different defenders had a shot at him, and he just was like, nope, I'm gonna go into the end zone instead. So it's very funny to see his athleticism at play, and because there's not much you can do as a defense in those types of situations. But he was able to connect with his wide receivers. Quentin Randolph had an amazing touchdown catch that I put on socials, so go check it out. Amazing touchdown catch with a minute left to go ahead and take the lead after being down by 20 points in the second half and completing the comeback. So overall, it was a great start to the season for Vegas, and they're not even at full strength wide receiver wise. CJ Wyndham wasn't active for this one. CJ Jefferson wasn't active for this one. So there's a handful of pieces that they're going to make this team even better moving forward. But I'm really excited to see this wide receiver group gel together and kind of see if they can pick up where they left off or exceed where they were last year with that dynamic wide receiver group from 2024. So it makes sense that they were able to mount this comeback because they brought in a ton of players from last year and they were able to keep some of that consistent core and along with the veteran quarterback and Jerome Johnson. It makes sense why they were able to make it happen. But Vegas is going to be very, very good. And yeah, the West is going to be exciting. All these late night games for us folks on the East Coast here, they're going to be very, very fun games to watch as we see San Diego, Vegas, Bay Area, um, Arizona, all these teams clash in the Western Conference. It's going to be very, very fun, and I'm just very excited for it. All right, jumping over to the AF1 now. AF1 was in week 3. They had a handful of games this past weekend. Starting off the weekend for the AF1, Salina Liberty went back to Corpus Christi to face the Tritons again in Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi won again, 51-37. So heading into this game, Salina was a 13.5 point underdog, which I felt was a crazy line given the talent that Salina has. It felt like the odds makers were really weighing that first game and holding it against Salina as they should. They had 6 interceptions, six turnovers, and just looked terrible. So I thought with a great group of skill position players in Salina, I think they had a chance to come in and not just cover, but I think they had a chance to win this game outright. And they did for the first half of the game. They looked really good. The pass rush for Salina was unbelievable, applying a ton of pressure on Corpus Christi and not really allowing them to do anything. But unfortunately for Salina, a lot of the fatal flaws that they displayed in week 1 came back in the second half of this one and reared its ugly head. They were up by 15 at one point in the first half and ended up losing this game by 14. Should have lost it by 20, if we're just being honest. Salina returned a kickoff for a touchdown with no time left to make it a 14-point game. Again, the quarterback position for Salina is holding them back. They have a really talented group of wide receivers. Tracy Brooks at running back is unbelievably talented. Defense, they have talent at every layer of the defense. The quarterback position is just holding them back. So I don't know what they do. Do they continue to trot out Kilgo from there? I don't know, but they're sitting at 0-2 due to some very poor quarterback play. They had a much better chance in this one than they did in the first one. But yeah, it's just the defense has to play absolutely lights out for 4 whole quarters in order to win with the current setup that they have. And given who they play next week in Albany in their home opener in Salina, that's going to be tough to do. It's going to be tough. So Salina's in a spot where they're 0-2 and staring down the barrel of 0-3, and that's just not something that I think anybody thought we'd see out of the Salina Liberty team that was very good last year and has an incredible coaching staff leading the way. But for Corpus Christi, they started off really slow in this one offensively and slowly started building some momentum and building some confidence. They only scored 6 points the um, first 25 minutes of the game, but then they were able to score right before halftime and they were able to score right after halftime and just keep that momentum going. Darius Prince, Quintavious Workman, Jaron McGaw, Mo Strong, they all found the end zone, catching touchdown passes from Fred Payton, who ended up with 191 yards and 5 touchdowns on the day. Offensively, the Tritons, they just woke up. They were asleep in the first half. They were just getting bullied by the Salina defensive line, but they woke up, figured some things out, pieced some things together, and were able to really lay it on thick in that second half. So for Corpus, it's going to be interesting to see them play other teams because Salina has underperformed like crazy. So Corpus is sitting at 2-0, but are they sitting at 2-0 because they're a 2-0 caliber team? Or are they sitting at 2-0 because they were able to pounce on some very poor offensive performances from Salina? And a Salina team that has drastically underperformed up to this point. So Corpus Christi will be going to Washington next. So I think that'll be a good litmus test to see where Corpus Christi is at in terms of were they just picking on Salina or are they legit? Are they for real? I think they might be for real and they could be one of the powers of the league. We could be seeing that unfold before our very eyes. But seeing them against new competition will be good. And I'm sure Salina is very happy to not have to go back down to Corpus Christi. But again, Salina has Albany coming up. Corpus Christi has Washington coming up. Corpus Christi can keep things moving, and Salina needs a win very badly. Speaking of Albany, the next game we're going to talk about is the Albany Firebirds at the Nashville Cats. Albany won this game 42-34. So I had the pleasure of actually going to this game live in Nashville and checking it out. So big shout out to AF1 and the Nashville organization for helping me get in and get set up with media credentialing and all that. It was very cool. Got a chance to network with a lot of cool people from the league and meet some other folks in the creative space and really get to experience an arena game in person for the first time in a very long time. I have not been to in person to an arena game in a long, long time. So it was very cool to see the setup, and I was very interested to see how Nashville would show up both on the field and off the field. Nashville on the field, they revamped a ton of things from week 0, new quarterbacks, brought in several new skill position players. And then off the field, they only started selling tickets about a week before the game. So I was curious to see how that would work out. But the home crowd for the Nashville Cats, they were a little quiet, a little slow at first, but as the action picked up, they were getting into it. It got louder in that building than you would think. I was very impressed with the support that they got on less than a week's notice, basically, in terms of selling tickets. And they had people lined up out the door in an hour and a half before kickoff, waiting to get in and get involved and get in the action. So I'm excited to see Nashville continue to grow from here in terms of fan support because it's there. There were some crazy people that were loving their Nashville Cats. I saw them waving shirts, doing this, doing that, yelling, barking, doing all this stuff. It was a fun atmosphere that they're starting to cultivate in Nashville. But on the field, newly acquired quarterback Rakeem Cato, famous for having a very, very successful collegiate career at Marshall, bouncing around different arena leagues in the CFL as well. He was able to get the offense flowing and moving early on, even supplied a nice big man touchdown, which was very delightful to see in person. Thank you, Mr. Cato. But they were able to get things going, and before you knew it, there were 40 points scored by both teams combined in the first quarter of this one. It was like, whoa, we've got ourselves a shootout going on here. But then that just came to a screeching halt and slowed down dramatically and became a very physical, very, I don't want to say violent, but it was borderline violence, physical, based on what I was seeing from the boards, being a couple feet away from the action at points. But speaking of Rakeem Cato, since the game, he's actually been released by the Nashville Cats. So something probably went down off the field. Don't know exactly what, but yeah, interesting that he was able to make a good debut, and now he's already gone. So Nashville's going to have their third different quarterback or fourth different quarterback in 3 different games, 3 different starters. It's a little bit messy, but Nashville showed some promise in this one with some of their skill position players and really being able to get things going offensively and show some life and put up a much bigger fight than I think a lot of people were expecting out of them against an Albany Firebirds team that many expect to be in the Arena Football One Championship at the end of the year. But for Albany, a win is a win. They all count the same. But offensively, they looked a little rough in this one. Castronova ended up 12 for 28 on the day. He did find the end zone 4 times. So it's crazy. Scoring 4 touchdowns, it's like just okay. But that's arena ball. He connected with Dwayne Brown twice, Isaiah Scott, and Darian Townsend once apiece there. But I think the biggest area for opportunity for the Firebirds on offense is being able to run the ball. Sam Castronova is able to scramble and pick up yards here and there, but when you have skill position players like Dwayne Brown, Trayvon Shorts, and Desmond Maxwell combining for 7 carries for 15 yards, that's a little concerning. It feels like they should be able to do a little bit more there and be a little bit more productive on the ground. And when you're productive on the ground, that opens things up for the passing game. That opens things up across the board. So I know that the arena football is known for pass, but being able to run the ball effectively is important, and it gives the defense something to think about in those early down situations at all times if you're able to establish it early. So if we're looking to nitpick, I think Albany can do a little bit of work there to improve that, and I feel like they will. I feel like that's a point of emphasis for Coach Ware that I've heard him mention on a couple different coaches' show. They were more than capable of running the ball last year, so it's something that they struggle with in this game, and it kind of shows when you look at the final result being only an 8-point game when many people were probably expecting this to be a 10, 15, 20 point game at minimum. It was a good win for Albany, but I think it was a good outcome for the league as a whole as well. It kind of humanized Albany a little bit. And what I mean by that is throughout this entire offseason, Albany's been put on this pedestal of being like this super team and they're going to be the team to beat. And based on how they performed in their opening game against Southwest Kansas, it looked like they were going to be able to steamroll a ton of teams all throughout the year. But being able to have a game like this where a team that wasn't looking their best in their opening game put up a really good fight against Albany, that's great for the league because it shows that on any given week, anything can happen. Nashville could have won this game if a couple things bounce their way, if a couple play calls go a little bit differently, if they're a little bit smarter with timeout usage and clock management. They could have very easily stole this game from Albany. But yeah, I think it's good to see that the gap from the top of the league and the bottom of the league isn't as wide as we think, because it was starting to look like if the gap was here, is for Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm sorry, I'm doing a visual, but if the gap was here, after a couple weeks, it was looking like it was here. It was looking like that gap was a lot wider than we thought. But now the gap is back to where it was and could be shrinking depending on how these teams improve. So Coach Arbet over in Nashville did a great job of turning some things around. And yeah, Nashville has got the Oregon Lightning coming to town this upcoming weekend, and then Albany is going to Salina to take on the Salina Liberty. So both teams are going to have interesting challenges ahead of them. But great win for Albany, but an even better outcome for the AF1. Final game of the AF1 weekend was the Oregon Lightning going to Dodge City to take on the Southwest Kansas Storm, and Oregon stole this game 41-40. So this is the game I alluded to earlier with Nick during that interview, and this was a wild one. But before we dive into the on-field action, we got some new jerseys in this one, which is very exciting. Oregon debuted their Oregon orange jerseys, orange top, orange bottom. Southwest Kansas had their bright purple top, bright purple bottom. So it's a cool little color rush game. I was a big fan. I'm glad we didn't see an all black versus an all white matchup like we've seen a ton of so far this season. But for the on the field play, the Storm were in control of this game early on and should have been in control of this game the entire way. Jalen Morton at quarterback, he was leading the way, and they were really leading into their run first philosophy, which which was a little bit different than what you typically see in arena football. They even introduced a new offensive set that I haven't seen Southwest Kansas run before, with running back Logan Wright being in high motion and taking the handoff from Jalen Morton, and then having an extra O lineman up at like an upper position. It was a very interesting formation that really leans into their identity with what they're trying to do. We saw Billings do something like that against Oregon early in the season, and it worked really, really well. So Southwest Kansas did the same exact thing, and it was working really, really well. So naturally, it was working well consistently, so they abandoned it. This is very, very, very puzzling decision. They were able to run the ball effectively all throughout the game, got out to a 26-point lead, but then it seemed like they thought the game was in the bag. They started trying to do different types of things. Instead of sticking with what was working and absolutely burying Oregon, they allowed Oregon to get the ball back and score. Get the ball back and score. And before you know it, Oregon was only down by 5. And the final minute for the Storm was some of the worst clock management I've ever seen in arena football. It was just bad. All they needed to do was gain yardage, but Oregon had one timeout, under a minute left, and somehow they were able to get the ball with 4 seconds left, and that was all they needed to be able to steal the win and on a Hail Mary. But it was just so disappointing for Southwest Kansas because they had this one in the bag. If they just kept doing what they were good at, they would have ran away with this one, won by 20 points, and we wouldn't be thinking anything of it. But instead, they kind of shot themselves in the foot and got a little too cute at times with certain things, and they fumbled this one away badly. But for Oregon, First two games, they had strong first halves and really fell apart in the second half. This game was the opposite. They struggled in the first half and then came on strong in the second half. Quarterback Dalton Cole, he was on fire in this one, at least later in the game. Here in the Real American Beer Player of the Week nod with 300 plus total yards, both rushing and passing combined, and 5 touchdowns on the day. And he's really making things happen with that Lightning offense. I would like to see other members of the Lightning offense get involved in the ground game. It seems like Dalton Cole is taking a ton of hits, which not a great thing considering you want like we've got 11 more weeks of the AF1 season ahead of us. Not necessarily 11 more games for Dalton Cole, but so 11 more weeks. So we want to make sure that Dalton Cole can start every game and get as much out of him because he's starting to click in the passing game. But if he gets hurt in the rushing game, what does that do you? That doesn't do you much good. So I'd like to see spraying the ball around to the running backs, maybe getting some jet sweep plays with wide receivers in the mix, just to get some other folks in the mix on the ground game. But again, the play of the weekend, we alluded to it earlier with Nick Brassell to win it in a walk-off fashion, no time left. Southwest Kansas brought in a couple tall wide receivers to hopefully bat down the pass, but he just blew right by them and was able to catch it in the very back of the end zone. Beautiful throw by Dalton Cole. And Nick just went under there and got it. So go watch that final play if you haven't already. I put the link in the description here. So go watch it. It was electric. It was incredible. Oregon is a team of fighters. They're going to continue to fight every opportunity that they can. They showed that they're not going to roll over and just go away. They're going to continue to fight and chip away at whatever lead you may have on them. And they're really starting to put it together. So I'm excited to see this team continue to evolve. And if they can get a ground game going with people not named Dalton Cole, look out. Like I think this team can be really good, and they can walk into your house and sneak away with a W like they did in Dodge City. Lastly, we've got the NAL Week 4 went down this past weekend. First game was Carolina Cobras at the Columbus Lions, and Carolina won this game 40-20. So after getting shut out last week, 26-0, they win this game at home 40-20 and bust Columbus's 970-day win streak. Columbus just had everything go wrong in this one. They had 3 interceptions out of their quarterback, Marcus Brooks, who usually takes care of the football, multiple fumbles on kickoff returns that resulted in some direct points for Carolina. It was just every time you blinked, it was like, oh no, another fumble. Oh no, Columbus did this. Oh no, Columbus did that. Yeah, it was a rough one for the Lions, but for the Cobras, they released Vincent Espinosa last week after getting shut out and brought in some other new pieces on offense. The snapping was a lot better in this one. Quarterback play was a lot better in this one. But they ended up bringing back wide receiver, running back, flex player James Summers, and he played quarterback in this one. And it worked really, really well. I think it was a little bit of a head scratcher heading into this one. Like they brought in who to be quarterback, but he was mobile and he was making things happen. He ended up going 13 for 18 for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns, along with 92 yards and a touchdown on the ground. So he was doing some of the stuff that they were hoping some of the previous quarterbacks on the team would be able to do, but he was actually making it happen. So Carolina was able to pounce on those mistakes that Columbus was doing, and they made Columbus pay for it. This is the team I thought Carolina was after their opening season win against Wheeling. I was in on them, then I was out. I don't know if I'm in. I don't know if I'm out. I don't know where I stand with Carolina. They're a very entertaining team, but as the season marches on, they're going to be an interesting one to watch because is their ceiling really high? Like, is this their ceiling? And then being shut out is their floor? Because if that's the case, there's a lot of room in between. But big win for Carolina, and Columbus will look to bounce back from a loss for the first time in 3 years, which is crazy to say out loud. But yeah, big win for Carolina here. Next game we have is the Idaho Horsemen versus the Omaha Beef, and Omaha won this game 28-24. I don't have a ton here, transparently, because I didn't have a chance to finish this game in full just yet. But from what I've seen so far from Omaha all this year, it seems like they're in a situation similar to what the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NFL they were in 2020. Pittsburgh started off 11-0, but they were winning ugly. They were winning games where they won, but did they win? Or did the other team just lose? They're not really winning these games convincingly, which I know is a little bit nitpicky. Like I mentioned earlier with Albany, a win is a win. They all count the same, but they're not really playing up to their typical standard, but they're still finding a way to win these games. So they quietly released quarterback Lorenzo Brown Jr. last week and went with Josh Hollins and Bryce Holiday at quarterback in this one. Didn't really get much out of them in the passing attack, which we didn't really see much out of Lorenzo Brown Jr. in the passing attack either. But Josh Hollins was able to score 3 times on the ground. So being pretty consistent with what we were seeing through the first couple games for Omaha. Idaho obviously looked better here than they did in their opening game. They just looked totally lost in that opening game, but took Omaha to the limit and nearly pulled it off. The onside kick was a little bit towards the end was a little bit better than I think people realize, and Idaho had a strong chance to actually recover it and potentially steal one from Omaha. But they have a little ways to go. But like I said, I haven't watched this game in full yet. That's just the macro level view for what I've seen so far and what I was able to pick up from the box score. So let me know what your thoughts were. If you've watched the game in whole, would love to hear what you have to think. Throw it in the comments. Is Omaha really, really good? Is it a Pittsburgh Steelers situation where they're winning but barely, but a win is a win? Tell me what your thoughts are. I'm curious. Then the last game we're going to talk about is the Colorado Spartans at the Sioux City Bandits. Sioux City won this game 35-26. And again, this is another one. Didn't have a chance to watch it in full yet, so I don't have a ton to touch on, but I do want to give a shout out to quarterback Andre Sale, friend of the show. He was on a couple months ago. He made his debut for the Colorado Spartans. He threw for 4 touchdowns, and the Spartans needed an aerial attack very badly, and he was able to provide that spark and give them some juice through the air. So he got signed and started on a very short week. So props to him for being able to put some points on the board like that. I'm excited to see him grow and evolve with that talented Colorado Spartans wide receiver group that they have there. And Spartans could be a team that caused a little bit of a ruckus towards the end of the year. But like the Omaha game, let me know what you thought of this game if you watched it in full, if you caught some of the game. Let me know what you think in the comments below. How did Sioux City look? How did you think Colorado looked with Andre Sale out there? I'm gonna watch this game in full, so don't worry. We'll get there eventually. Just ran out of time this week, but let me know in the comments your thoughts. And that's the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Big thanks to Nick for hopping on the show and talking about his football journey in that electric Hail Mary play in Dodge City. Go follow him on socials and make sure you're following Off the Wall on socials at Off the Wall FB. F as in foot, B as in ball. Off the Wall FB. We're on X. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on all the socials. Go give us a follow on there. Say hi. When we're watching the games, I'm always posting, tweeting the storm. So come say hi. Come hang out. If you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you're liking and subscribing to the video, or liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with a friend. And do the same thing over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. Rate the show 5 stars. Share it with a friend. Like the episode. Do all the things and stuff. It helps. Really fun group of games across all 3 leagues this past week, and we got another batch of fun games starting on Thursday night this upcoming weekend. So let me know what you think is going to be the game of the week. Let me know what game you're excited about. Let me know what player you're excited about on socials in the comments below. All that I would love to hear from everybody, and I love mixing it up with the people on the socials. So the fact that there's only 24 hours in a day, and the fact you chose to spend about an hour and a half here, listen to me talk about arena football, listening to Nick tell his football journey and talk about that Hail Mary means a lot. So really appreciate the love and support so far, and looking forward to seeing how we can continue to grow this thing out. So enjoy your IFL, enjoy your AF1, enjoy your NAL, Enjoy all the arena and indoor football we got here. We're in the midseason. That's what we were hoping for the past couple of months, and we're finally here. So enjoy it. Reach out on socials. We'll see you next time.